Hey everybody, it's Chubby Funster. I'm going to be running a solo play today for my upcoming campaign setting, Terra Invictus for ShadowDark. I built a variety of features to make it work as both a conventional GM-led campaign or as a solo campaign. And in this video, we're going to kick off the campaign and demonstrate how solo play structure works in practice. And in future videos, it's going to get a lot deadlier. So let's get started. The map for Terra Invictus is really large, covering a southern portion of the continent in the world of Aegis. However, it's part of a much bigger world, and I'm hoping to eventually develop this into a complete unified design, but that's going to take a lot more work, and I can't do that all at once, so I've broken it up into three manageable chunks. And so we work things out in Terra Invictus, and we can keep building up. I'm introducing 117 deities in this module, 39 of each alignment, and I'm supporting that with a system for pious characters to go on pilgrimages to demonstrate their faith. And as a form of religious carousing called acts of devotion that I'm introducing, where you can spend gold for religious purposes. Now, Kunai is one of the three major lawful gods, and I chose him to be the example in this video. Now we are in the northeast corner of the Terra Invictus map, and we're going to begin play in Bogoria, which is one of the three towns suggested for parties to use as starting locations. The Hool River is the southern border of the kingdom, and Bogoria is roughly 5 hexes away from that, so that gives us some time to practice using the solo play hex exploration mechanics without a lot of combat. And our pilgrimage for Kunai is taking us to 3322, which is out on the Smoking Plains. And to that end, I've created a party with two priests that are both followers of Kunai, and a fighter, and a wizard, and a thief. And their short-term goal is going to be to reach 3322. And depending on how that adventure goes, we're going to decide what to do from there. This is the town of Bogoria. And the starting towns are outlined in a color, so you can easily locate them when you're flipping through the book. And I've blurred out the right side to show you how the solo play system works. And when you have the copy of the book, it won't be blurry, of course, but the point of the icon system is to clearly define what your characters know and what they don't know. And we don't have to make GM-like calls about those things because we can use the icons to figure that out. So even if you accidentally read something you aren't supposed to read, you can just enforce that your character doesn't know that and proceed anyway. So let's talk about the icons. They're there to organize the information, and when you have a GM, that just helps you find everything faster. But when you're running a solo play, the icons serve as a guide to help structure what you're doing. So some icons can only be learned by your characters if they make a check, and that's why I've blurred out about half of this page. But the other ones you can just read for free. So the first one here is weather. You get to read that anytime you enter a new hex, and here we can see that it's just a pleasant day in Bogoria. The second icon is called the first look, and this contains information that's readily apparent when you enter the hex. And it gives us some basic information here about the town. In Wilderness Hex, it'll tell us more about what we're seeing in the countryside. The starting location section here gives you some tips on how to get started. It's mostly for GM-led play to help the GM give players more information rather than just sending them out into the world, but these are good tips for anything. The ground and water transport sections are free to read also. You can use them to pick a method to travel within civilized areas across, reasonable distance, and a large portion of the map is wilderness, so you can't get everywhere doing this by a long shot. But if you want to travel within a civilized land, you can do that this way by paying some money, and then you don't have to make encounter checks or worry about rations and that kind of thing. The next two icons are for temples. There's two in Bogoria, and we can read these descriptions without a roll, but if we want to buy scrolls or get any spellcasting help, we need to make a charisma check versus a DC 12. One of these temples is dedicated to kunai, actually, and we can see that they will deliver correspondence to NPCs anywhere in Bochnia. So if we need to send out letters later, we can do that and communicate more than just face to face. Now the last icon here is a military one. These are places where you can recruit new PCs. A lot of times there's a existing military force there. Now since we're in a starting town, there's unlimited recruitment here, but that is not going to be the case everywhere. You can get into some place where you might only be able to recruit halflings. You can only get fighters because it's a warrior encampment or something like that. We might end up limping back to Bogoria later to pick up some more NPCs if things don't go so well. And this is the rumor table. And in most towns, it's only a D6 table, but in the 3 starting towns, there's 20 entries. And to save time, because I'm on a pilgrimage, I'm only going to roll once for the entire party. But normally, I'd roll one for every character at the start of the game. I don't want to get a lot of distractions because I'm trying to go on my pilgrimage. But I would normally learn a lot of rumors here, and that would give me a lot of different ideas on what direction I want to go and give me a taste of what's out there. But let's roll. We got a 9. So we learned that hobgoblins are gathering on the smoking plain. That's really useful for us because our pilgrimage is on the smoking plains. So we may very well run into these hobgoblins. If there's any truth at all to this rumor, we'll find out, I guess. So we're going to note that in our journal and carry on. There are also 4 NPC interactions in this town and 1 secret agent. So the solo play rules require me to make a charisma check versus DC 12 to gain information from the NPC, and a charisma check versus DC 18 to reveal a secret agent. So let's try talking to an NPC. I got a 7, but I have a +2 charisma mod, so that gives me a 9. I wasn't able to learn anything. Resolving an interaction takes about an hour, so I just spent an hour asking questions around town, trying to meet people, and nothing came to pass. But as long as I didn't get a natural 1, I didn't piss anybody off too bad. I can come back another day and reattempt that. So let's try again, see what we can do. All right, this time we got a 16 result. That's good. So we can reveal this NPC and interact with them. So we've talked to Merrick Sereda, and he's a survivor of a pretty horrific encounter with a brain eater, which is kind of like a mind flayer in ShadowDark. And we've learned the location of the brain eater and a little bit about its behavior. It wanders around outside rather than staying in its lair. That could be really useful. If we're in Hex 3729, we should be really cautious when we're walking around outside. So it's now been another hour, and we probably should get going. It's getting up to mid-morning, and we need to get on the road. So we can move out, but if we wanted to stay here, we could keep rolling, keep interacting with people until we find something really strongly incents us to do a particular action, or find out a way to find easy treasure, all kinds of different things that you can learn in town. Since we're on a pilgrimage, we're just going to go ahead and head out. So back on the world map, we can see that we're headed for the Smoking Plains, and the possibility of hobgoblins there. That's where we're going on our pilgrimage. Now, the Brain Eater is further to the south, so for now we're just going to keep that information in our pocket. And we're going to keep traveling east into Hex 3032. And we can read the weather and the first look right away. And after 4 hours of travel, the weather's given way to rain in the afternoon. And this land is fertile and civilized. This is a peaceful place. So we're going to make a random encounter roll. This is a safe area. It's only 1 encounter roll per day. And that's going to change as we leave civilization. So let's be grateful for that. I got a 1, and we find 2 farmers fighting over a lost cow. Now, my teenage son was playtesting this for me a few days ago, and my wife and I heard him talking to himself in the other room. We were, what are you talking about? And he was role-playing out these 2 farmers. He had run into these guys as well, and he was trying to get them to work it out and come to a peaceful resolution. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to try to do that myself, and we can make a charisma check to see if we can break up this fight. I'll set a DC of 9 because they're not hated enemies or anything. And oh, we got a 6. So it looks like we couldn't stop these guys. So let's say one of them just bunches the other one, knocks him out, and stomps off. Now I have 2 priests. One of them can cast Cure Wounds with advantage. So he's going to try to bring this guy back to consciousness. There we go. And we did it. So we bring him back. We tell him, hey, buddy, you need to be careful next time. And send him on his way. But nobody got seriously injured. Now, at this point, we can continue on to the next hex if we want. The solo play rules let you read weather in first look and then make a random encounter roll. And then if you want to keep going, you can continue on, or you can spend time poking around further in this hex. There's more to do here, but we have important missions, so we're going to just keep on going. Now, it takes about 4 hours to cross a hex. The ShadowDark rules are that you can make 2 hexes a day, 8 hours of travel. And we're following the coast, so I'm not going to call for a navigation check. It's getting late in the afternoon, and we've made our way to the shores of a quiet bay. Not much is going on here, so let's roll a random encounter. And we got a 5, so that means we spot some otters in the water eating oysters. So this is definitely a nice, quiet place to hang out. This is a good place to camp for the night. So if we keep going, we'll have to make constitution checks, keep pushing ourselves. So we're going to stop here and camp. Now the next morning, we're going to follow the coast again for another 4 hours. And we've made our way to an oyster diving area. We can see some divers out in the water. And it's getting to be midday, so the light must be really good for diving. Let's roll a random encounter and see what we get. We got a shark. Awesome. So that's going to be a threat to the oyster divers. Unfortunately, the weather indicates that it's very hard to hear. It's high winds and noisy. So we yell out a warning, but they're not going to be able to hear us. Now, part of solo play is connecting the dots in a creative way. So we can imagine that the shark grabs and eats one of the oyster divers. We try to help, but it's really noisy, and so nobody hears us. So that's just how all those events collide together. If it had been nice and clear, we could have helped. If it had been a monster on the ground, maybe we could have fought it. Out in the water, there's not much we can do. So just the interaction of these random things together creates the story of us. So we were just walking down the coast here, and we saw a shark just rip up a guy. That's what's going on. Now, the party wizard Zormesh has a jeweler's background, and he saw the otters eating the oysters, and he saw oyster divers, so he's convinced that there's some good pearls out there in the water. And despite the obvious risk of sharks, he wants to explore more in this hex. So let's play out how it works when you go exploring in a hex. So here's a discovery icon and a trap icon in this hex. Now that means that there's something to discover first, but that the trap icon must be immediately resolved after you do that. So you can't choose to not resolve the trap once you resolve the item above it. So let's be brave and check it out. So we need to make an intelligence check versus DC 9 to find the discoveries. My wizard has an intelligence bonus +3, so this should not be a problem at all. Whew, and we got a 9 exactly, so close, but we made it. The discovery itself is a pearl diving chance. We can dive down and get some pearls. Okay, so it's a dex check where we get the better result the higher we roll. So the wizard has a bonus of +1 dex, so let's go for it. All right, and we got a 15. Great, so that's several larger pearls and a mix of smaller ones. The total value is 2d6 times 5 GP. So let's roll that as well. All right, so we rolled a little low, but that's 25 gold pieces in pearls and XP for the group, according to the way we do XP in ShadowDark. So that's great, but now we have to resolve that trap. And the trap is the risk of a shark attack. So sometimes the trap icon indicates actual traps, but also sometimes represents stuff you just can't avoid, like sharks coming up in the water while you're pearl diving. And so now we're going to have to check and see if there's a shark as Zoromesh swims back up with the pearls. Oh, all right, it's close. We got 2, but we got the pearls, and we can continue on. So just for timekeeping purposes, we're going to check off 2 hours here, 1 hour for each icon, and we're going to continue to follow the shoreline to the south. So now we're headed into the Painted Hills. We can see some shepherds and small plot farmers. It's pretty rocks, and it's going to be a great sunset. But first, we're going to have to make a random encounter roll. It's late in the day. The winds are picking up. Let's see. We got one, and Bochnian Night Patrol. So Bochnia is the country that we're in right now with the green text on the map for the cities. So none of our characters is a criminal. Should be no problem. Okay, so we've got 9 knights. Okay, they could pound us into dust. So here's how we're going to interpret this. We got 2 lawful priests. Everybody's lawful actually, and we're leaving Bochnia. So we're going to say this is kind of a goodbye situation. We'll make it clear we're on a pilgrimage, and they wish us well on our journey, and we don't have any problems. So we're going to head now into camping. Since it's a safe area, that's no problem. And we have rations. We used up 1 ration yesterday. This is our 2nd day. We're using up another ration. Each character started with 6 when I bought equipment, so we should be totally good. Set down and we'll see what happens tomorrow. So we're starting out the next morning into 3229. We're getting a cool salty breeze off the ocean, and we find ourselves in rugged hills covered with little clusters of egg-shaped rocks that are giving off a magical aura and have humanoid skin. Oh, that's creepy. So this is our first risky hex. Risky is a danger category in ShadowDark, meaning that we have to check for random encounters every 2 hours that we spend on interactions. And also this hex has some interesting icons. The enchantment icon indicates that a magical effect could be negatively impacting us. We have to make an intelligence check versus DC 12. Success will let us figure out what the magical effect is before it hits us, but failure means we're just going to stumble into it and take a negative. The camp event icon indicates that something's going to happen if we camp in this hex, if the sun goes down while we're here. Since it's midday, it's probably going to be a way to dodge that for right now, but we'll never know what's going to happen. And then there's also a treasure icon. So we can't get that until we resolve the interaction above it. So we'd have to stay here overnight to find out whatever that hidden treasure is. But let's decide to do an encounter roll first to see what's going on. And, ooh, that's not good. 3d6 fairies. High roll here, and we could get a TPK. Let's see how many of them there are. So we've got 10 fairies. Ouch. And they're level 1 monsters, so they have poison, and they outnumber us 2 to 1. But we also have to make an encounter distance roll. That could save us. That's a d6 roll to figure out how far away they are. This is a 4. That's not good. They're at near distance, 20 to 30 feet away. So we can't really run away unless we sacrifice someone to do that. And our last hope is going to be in our reaction check, another part of ShadowDark. So since the description says they're already angry, I'm going to put a -2 modifier on that. But my party leader has a +2 charisma bonus. So they're going to cancel each other out. Let's see what we get. And saved by the dice. That's a 9, and that means they're going to be neutral to us. So even though they were angry, we're able to convince them that we are not interested in a fight, and we're just passing through. We are not encroaching on their territory or building anything. They probably really don't like farmers and settlers. So we're going to say we're going to convince them that we're not even Botchnians, because we have elves in our party. There's no national affiliation here for us, so we're just going to be like, hey, we're just moving through. Big part of the solo play experience, like we talked about earlier, is using those clues and the dice to bring together everything here. This story could have ended in death right here on the frontier if dice had fallen a little bit differently. It's not, so that's great for us. But if it had ended badly, we could have created a new party and started over, and this would have just been the cautionary tale of random fairy attack on the borderland. So now we have to resolve the enchantment interaction. So let's make an intelligence check. 6, that's even with our wizard's +3 bonus. That's not good. So one of us, let's see, the wizard, since he's the one making the check, picks up one of the eggs and it burns him for 1 hit point. And unfortunately for him, he only had 1 hit point. So he is knocked unconscious and dying from a wicked egg burn. I didn't see that coming. All right, let's roll a death timer on him. 3. He has no con modifier, so we have 3 turns to bring him back before he dies. Now, luckily, I have the 2 priests, one of which can cast Cure Wounds with advantage, so we can try to fix this real quick. And there we go, healed and no longer dying. So that was an hour on the clock. If we stay here for another hour, we're going to have to make another one of those encounter checks because it's risky territory. So let's continue on. So it's getting late in the day now. We're headed into 3228. We've reached the mouth of the Hool River. It's hot and humid, and it says there's a stench of decay and rot in the air. That's not good. The water is brackish and churning in the tide, and there's a lot of small game around. So that's good since we were kind of eating through our rations. But unfortunately, this is also a deadly encounter danger level. So we're going to have to make a random encounter check every hour that we stay here. So every time we resolve an interaction, we're going to have to then follow that up with another encounter check. So it's dangerous. Let's see. So we got a 2, and that is an encounter with wolves. So fortunately, they're just checking us out, and there's only 3 of them. So we might not die. This is our first hex with a combat icon. What that means is if we keep exploring this hex, we're going to have to resolve that combat first. And we also have a camp event icon, which is also bad for us because it's getting to be late in the evening again on our 3rd day here. So if we camp overnight, that's going to trigger its own interaction and then another random encounter roll on top of that. So that creates a mix of a bunch of dangerous options here for us to do. Should we attack these wolves that we see? Will we, benefit from getting into a fight, or should we just let them head out? Should we try to camp in this hex? That's going to be risky on its own. We could be attacked by more wolves or worse. And should we try to escape the hex? But it's late in the day. We'd have to be making constitution checks to avoid exhaustion. That's a bunch of bad options, so let's think about it. And finally, what's the overall plan for our journey after we get out of this hex? So the most direct route is straight over the Anga Peaks. Some of those hexes are going to be difficult, arduous terrain. It's going to slow us down according to the ShadowDark hex crawl rules, and they're probably also very dangerous hexes. We could also follow the river and then head down from Hoolgate and go south to get to the Smoking Plains and go around the mountains. We could also push north to Scallis. It's only a day away, and try to get safety there, and then continue along the river, do something else. We've already eaten half of our food, and we're down to 3 rations per character left. So we have to consider a lot of things here. I hope to hear from you guys in the comments on YouTube and talking on Twitter. I'm going to discuss it over there as well. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think I should do next.